My short documentary will explore how growing up in rural Australian towns shapes the self expression and identities of alternative individuals. This topic resonates with me because while I can acknowledge the growth in Australia's national identity where unorthodox self expression is concerned, in many rural areas there's still a strong pressure to fit a certain mould. I grew up in a regional city where there's a more multifaceted community of identities and culture, so I was more free from judgment to experiment with my style. However, from understanding the lived experiences of people from around Australia, I understand this is not always the case in many areas. This, this documentary explores what it means to grow up alternative in these spaces, where self expression can be met with judgment or stigma. Through the voices of young people carving out their identities against the grain, this will take a closer look at how culture, community, and difference intersect beyond city limits. It's about more than fashion or music. It's about identity, resilience, and the relationship between individuality and acceptance. This documentary explores. The main subject for my documentary will be Lauren, a friend who has grown into the alternative slash grunge identity while living in Tumut, New South Wales. Through interviews, visual storytelling, and archival footage, the documentary will allow the subjects to lead the interviews, providing insight into navigating the challenges and rewards of standing out in small town life. It examines the social codes that persist in country communities and how people adapt, push back, or reshape themselves in response. As the film unfolds, it will investigate how isolation, creativity, and community intersect, and how identity is both challenged and forged by these surroundings. The documentary will follow a survey structure, connecting multiple perspectives and social commentaries while returning to Lauren as a recurring voice. The main subject for my documentary. Visually, I'll be using floating head interviews in casual settings such as the outdoors or home interiors to create a sense of familiarity and conversational tone with the subjects. I would also like to obtain wide shot footage from the landscapes of rural areas referenced in interviews to highlight contextual places. I would also like to capture raw audio from these scenes to add to the ambiance of the shot. Visually, Maya Newell's 2019 documentary In My Blood It Runs follows a young Aboriginal boy in Alice Springs to demonstrate how environment and social expectations shape identity. While its strength lies in its observational style, which is different to my own documentary, I admire how the director allows Duan to represent himself authentically. This allows the subject to guide the viewer's understanding of place, power, and personhood. It also reflects a strong ethical approach in foregrounding participant agency, which is something this project aims to emulate. Maya Newell's 2019 documentary in 2020 docu-series You Can't Ask That by Kirk Docker and Aaron Smith utilizes talking head interviews in a survey style to talk about controversial social commentaries from the perspective of marginalized individuals. This inspires the project's approach to mixing personal storytelling with cultural context, which effectively builds up a sense of intimate insight. The tone of the interviews is kept casual and conversational, which maintains individual authenticity while building on different perspectives through an almost vox pop style of film. 2020 doc. I will take multiple measures to ensure my documentary is in line with ethical and legal considerations. Participants from communities will be given control over how they are portrayed, including final approval of footage they appear in and the option to withdraw participatory consent up to a week before publication. Care will be taken to avoid stereotyping rural Australia in a negative light or, on the opposite side, framing alternative individuals as outsiders in a sensationalist way. Sensitive topics to do with mental health, bullying, or identity struggles will be handled delicately, with consent and appropriate support put in place. Permissions will be obtained for all private locations used. I will take multiple. Project schedule will commence with planning on the 20th of May, which includes finding subjects and scheduling shooting and writing interviews and film sequencing. Production filming will run from the 3rd to the 10th of June, with editing taking place on the last 7 days before submission. This allows a full week to refilm parts if problems occur during editing. Project schedule will commence. Locations will include interviewees' homes for an intimate look into their environment and identity, as well as local areas from their current and past places of residence to highlight the contrast between regional cities and rural areas. Visuals will avoid stereotypes of rural life, for example, dust and drought, and instead focus on lived spaces and personal style. Locations. The film crew will consist of 4 roles: camera, sound, director, and editor. A DSLR camera will be utilized in conjunction with a shotgun mic and tripod. This combination of equipment will ensure optimal audio for both close up interviews and raw audio, as well as visual stability for panning landscape shots and in focus close ups. There is also a possible need for a car for regional travel to film. The film crew will consist of
I'm Lauren, I'm 20. I live in Wollongong at the moment, but I'm originally from Adelong, which is a rural town of about 1,000 people. And then I moved to Tumut, which is also like a really rural town of about 6,000 people. Adelong especially is definitely an aging population. A lot of old people, like we didn't even have a high school because there just wasn't enough kids for it. And a lot of the kids there are also just following in their parents' footsteps of going into farming or logging or something like that. A lot of people just call me emo as like a blanket statement, but I'd say I have more influences from like grunge, maybe a little bit of punk, tiny bit of goth, I don't really know. I didn't really have anyone who dressed like I did growing up, so I kind of just looked on the internet, like especially Pinterest and stuff. My Pinterest board was nothing like anyone I saw around Tumut and Adelong.
Do people react differently to you in your small town now that you've found your style in comparison to Wollongong or other big cities?
I think I get ignored a lot more. People just kind of see eyeliner, dark clothes, and don't see who I am. They just see how I dress and don't bother to look any further. I get a lot of comments of like, oh, what's that shit on your face? Like, what's that, like, big wing? And a lot of people just like won't look past it. Some of the rewards, like having little kids who are probably in the same boat I was and don't have someone to look up to who dresses like us. They see me and they like think I'm really cool.
What does identity mean to you? Is it just the way you look in terms of your alternative style, or does identity mean more than that?
It definitely means more, but I'm aware that how you look plays a lot into how people see you. I think it's nice to have how you look be representative of who you are, but I know there's so much more to me than how I dress. I think fashion is tied really close to music, so like to express myself the way I do, it's always showing people that this is what I enjoy. I'm Lauren, I'm 20, I live in Wollongong at the moment.